Hi, welcome to Pick Your Coaches podcast. My name is Akshay Virala. Pick Your Coach is an online one-to-one coaching app that helps you access certified coaches across sports. The podcast is my way of helping you understand how elite athletes get to where they are, their game plan, mindset, and preparation. Thanks for joining us on Pick Your Coaches podcast. My guest today is a local boy from Bangalore who's the only Asian selected for the prestigious Aston Martin Racing Academy. He currently races in the GT4 series in Europe, but right now he's obviously back home in Bangalore and I'm sure waiting to get back on the track. Thanks, Akhil Rabindra, for taking the time to be part of Pick Your Coaches podcast.
Hi, Akshay. Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be on it and look forward to this great session ahead.
Awesome, thanks. Starting off, Akhil, born and brought up in Bangalore. Obviously, not many tracks for you to race on, maybe a few go-karting tracks, but what got you into motorsports and how do you take that up?
Yeah, so it's been a very interesting journey for me. Family-wise, within our family, extended family, no one from the racing fraternity or background. But we were all car and bike enthusiasts. So we would always have conversations whenever we met at gatherings or anywhere. There's always car talk on anything or bike talk. So that car enthu and DNA was always there in my dad's side of the family.
Sure.
But that was never, and we always, we always have nice drives and all that. But no, nothing on the racing front. So the next best thing for me, when I was a lot younger and I was 8, 9, 10, was rental go-karting, right? That was the only legal form of enjoyment and thing I could touch and feel and do. So we used to go, my dad used to take me rental go-karting almost every weekend. And that was one of the few things I really, really enjoyed. And personally speaking, I've played many sports, played cricket, tennis, golf, table tennis, badminton, all to very initial professional levels, like whatever you call it, zonal or whatever. But maybe sports like badminton and table tennis stuck, maybe because it was fast and it was something I liked.
Yeah.
But golf was way off for me. It was just too slow and boring and not my cup of tea. But coming back to the point was, we used to go rental go-karting every weekend. And like you mentioned, we do not have a lot of professional go-karting tracks. And back then we had very few recreational go-karting.
Yeah, probably just a couple, right?
Yeah, so it was the one in Grips, one in Marathalli
Yes.
zone, and RT Nagar, which was Patel's in.
Yes.
I think, and those are the ones which were the more popular ones. So I used to go to Grips a lot. For people who don't know, Grips is all the way on Mysore Road, a good 20 kilometers, if not more, away from the city. And on the way to Grips, there's what back then used to be the famous nice road. It was, clean roads, empty roads. So whenever we used to go to Grips, we used to always stop by and go through nice road and dad used to open up the car a bit. So it became a whole 3-4 hour event. So so always used to go to Grips, did a lot of rental go-karting, beat a lot of people there, which is not a true representation of skill or talent, right? Beating people coming for fun.
Sure.
So then we started going to E-Zone, and then the E-Zone, one of the managers at E-Zone said, "Hey, it's professional go-karting. Why don't you guys go give that a shot and see what if you're good at it and all that." But that's when we discovered this whole world of motorsports in India. Then we discovered Kari Motor Speedway, then the Kolhapur racetrack, Miko Motorsports, Mohite is racing, and then we realized, okay, so then the first engagement was with Mr. Akbar Ibrahim, who we all know in India. We did a training camp under him for professional go-karting. This is the 2-stroke Rotax 125cc engine.
Sure.
And, I think on my parents' side, they got a bit more clarity. I was fairly good even on the training camp. There were some professional racers there. So I was not too off. I mean, I was off, but in a reasonable relation to them. So that's when we kind of said, let's go with this and pursue it.
Got it. So, like you said, obviously, your dad has been your mentor and the influence that he had and where he supported you on this. But any other mentors that you had once you started showing the interest in sports and someone who could direct you in the right direction?
Oh, for sure. I think you have mentors on. For me, it was on. I had a lot of mentors, and some good, some bad. But the one person who definitely stayed a mentor was Akbar Ibrahim. He's himself been a racing driver. He's coach trained so many students. So he just he just knows what someone going through when and how to deal with it. So
Sure.
but I think all my India stuff, even today, Akbar uncle, and then later on, now it's Arman. But I think Akbar uncle, right from karting to junior formula, or even I did some saloon car racing. Any technical feedback or even mental, when when things are not going right, how to deal with that. So I think he was always there. But saying that, every we're in India, right? Everyone likes to give feedback. Everyone likes to give their opinion. Everyone thinks they're right, and everyone's bombarding you with information and stuff, trying to say this is the right way. So I think sometimes you gotta think to learn very early on what to filter and really take it into your head and leave the rest aside.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. Like, I'm glad you touched upon that, Akhil, because uh, given the information and given there are a lot more people who will give you that advice, it's important to get it from the right person and know who the right person is. So that's where the role of that coach or mentor becomes important for you. And I think, like you rightly said, correct me if I'm wrong, saying that you have to know whose brains to pick rather than just, and also probably hear everyone else, like you probably said, probably being diplomatic and hearing them out, but knowing what to pick from their conversation as well.
That's absolutely true. Just adding a bit on that, when you're a young kid growing up and racing, you have all these elder people, who's, they have other fathers, other personnel, and and when you're new into something, everyone is more knowledgeable than you, so everyone's giving their two bits of advice and which is all coming from a good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's all with a good heart and wanting you to succeed. But
I think one has to realize that at when your first year in, your second race in, your third qualifying, and whatever, you just need three things from the right person and three things to focus on. You can't have a mindset of the guy who's winning the race. You can't have the mindset of the guy who is trying to beat the guy winning the race. You where you are and what you are. You just need two three things to just improve you at that level and take you to the next level. I think that's where you really have to smile a lot, say yes, thank you very much, and then just take what's needed and go on with it.
No, I'm glad. I've done about 6 or 7 podcasts, and I'm glad you've brought this up because I think it's a touchy topic where people don't want to talk about it per se, but everyone growing up experiences that. I'm sure across sports, not just in motorsports. And I'm sure for you also it would have been harder because there are not that many people who would come and talk to you about motorsports like in any other sport in India. So you obviously had to be picky and choose the right words and the right people to go and approach for the right kind of advice.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Without disrespecting anyone.
Yeah, that's the most important part, I'm guessing, without disrespecting everyone. So, post that, obviously now I know that Aston Martin Racing Academy was a long drawn process. You had interviews, fitness tests, and other tests that you do. So, how did you prepare for that, Akhil? What did that entail?
So it's prior to the Aston Martin Racing Academy, I was on two more academies, and then with the experience of those academies, I knew the various parameters of testing. So I knew that every academy will have a fitness element, will have a driving element, will have an interview element, and some might have some more flavors to it, as like a psychometric testing, or there's normally three standard tests, maybe go to five. So when it came to the fitness, it was relatively simple. I mean, simple meaning I knew what was going to be asked. There's always strength and cardio test. More often than not, you're doing those exercises, but you're always exercising to become better in a car. You're not exercising to, how many can you do in 10 seconds or 1 minute, right? So then you just got to fine tune that to be able to get your workout. I mean, those certain exercises in tune to those where you have to do X. I mean, you have to do as many as you can in a minute.
Sure.
And then the cardio bit is again, it's these days that the testing is so crazy. They can. I remember one of the tests they used to prick me every. We used to do the beep test, and then every four beeps or three, whatever, two beeps, you should take the blood and see how your lactate has built up. So that's how crazy it's been. And they don't even, and if you're fit and able to run, and your lactate number has crossed a certain threshold, they just say don't run because you're just gone beyond that, even though you can run. So that's being one level of extreme. The other level of extreme is, when they just check your heart rate and then you see how long they keep pushing you, and if you're not reaching that heart rate level and you're really still on the highest level of some cardio exercise, they know you're quite fit. So it's a bit routine in different combinations here and there.
Sure.
And the driving bit, nowadays getting on the track is so expensive and so difficult. A lot of people are shifting their testing on a simulator.
Okay.
So the simulator testing it can be varied. The few I've gone through is basically where they try to put you on a track where you don't know anything, and then they give you maybe 3 sets of 5 laps to get as fast as you can and as consistent as you can. And obviously, there's a base time set.
Time set. Yep.
So that's again, one might debate is that a true process of testing a racing driver on the simulator? That it's a different conversation. You can go hours on that.
Yeah.
But yes and no, that's one way to do it. Then that's the most cost efficient way. And then the third thing, the interview session. I think it's more about to see where a person is at, motivation levels, ambitions in life, personal background, and just trying to get the person to articulate who he or she is, and then get the whole round idea of the person and go forward with that.
Yep. No, and also when you said whether sim racing is the right way to do it, I guess with this whole new situation, I'm thinking a lot more people will just have to get used to that, and probably for this whole year, that's what's going to happen, and people are going to get used to that as well. So, but how's the experience once all of that was done and you got through? And obviously, it's something that you were really proud of. But how's the experience been being part of that academy?
Oh, it was a wonderful process. Process was good, and the experience has been that much more grateful. You got access to the top, right? You got access to the factory drivers, the works drivers. You got access to fitness personnel. You got access to the top management. So you had access to anyone, and all these people could help you out with anything you're facing through. So suddenly, I was, doing workouts which a works driver would be doing. So it's that feeling of, hey, this is what he works out, and then you're trying to get to his reps and his weights and all that, and you're like, oh, if I get to that, I'm as fit as him. And you're on the sim, you're trying to do what he's trying to practice, and you're saying, oh, this is what he does, this is how he prepares and goes in for a race weekend. So things like that. Then just basic things of, because all these, when you're going into a new track and new environment, just small tips of exit of turn 3, use this bit of tarmac. And that's like 1/10 or 2/10, right? And then exit or turns, entry of turn 7, you use the side road which comes in a bit. Just small things like that. Where it's just that it's not like brake, plate, turn in. All that is loose feedback if I can determine that. Things like that. So when you go and when you go to a race situation, you have these micro things to work on and feedback which you receive. And suddenly you suddenly have 3-4 tenths in your pocket, doing nothing. So I think access and able to extract value from the access was the two things I worked on.
Oh yeah, I can imagine being like you said, and obviously I've not done anything in motorsports or anything, but just relating it to other sports as well. When you have access to those kind of people and the kind of information they share with you is very different from what anyone else could probably give you. So They
Yeah.
get
And they've been there, they've
that.
done that, and they've gone through the same thing which you're going through. So
Yeah,
and there's no ulterior motive for them, right? They want to see you succeed and do well. So they're
sure.
giving everything in their playbook to you.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be good. So this past season, you raced in GT4 and the Hankook one. So and you emerged at the top of the table. So how's that experience been, and what are those learnings that you're going to take into this new season when it starts?
So last year was a very, very difficult year for me. It tested me on all fronts.
Mhm.
I think I did. Um I think I did about 16 races, 16 rounds of racing around the world.
Sure.
I did, I think, 10 in Europe, UK, Europe. I did 4 in the US and 2 in India. So, or maybe I'm missing out a few, but 16 race weekends.
Mhm.
It became almost a Formula One season. Where
Yep.
it's the racing is one part of it, the travel is another part, the fatigue. It was a true test of putting everything, all my training to test. But saying that, I think who I was up until the beginning of 2019 and the person I was the ending of 2019 was two very different people in terms of racing and my skills at driving.
Sure.
So I think the maximum I've learned in a year has been in 2019 compared to any other year. So probably maybe it's because of so many rounds of racing. It's probably like 2 years of learning come through.
Sure.
But saying that, the Creventic Championship, which were normally 12-hour races and 3 to 4 co-drivers, it was a very interesting experience because it was endurance racing.
Sure.
So I was driving up to 6 hours in the car. It could be 1 hour stints, it could be 2 hour stints, and I think once I even did more. I did almost a 2.5 hour stint because we had a lot of
Yeah.
safety cars.
Sure.
So it's a even though you're still driving on the track and you're still racing, the mindset is very different when you're doing an endurance race, right?
Sure.
It's not everything is like they say in endurance racing. It's all one on the last 10 minutes, right? Everyone's on a different program. Everyone's doing the different thing. So it's all about how fast you can do your 1 hour.
Sure.
That's it's very simply put, but it's all about consistency. It's all about you know making sure your tires are lasting. It's not how well it's how well the end of the hour or end of the 1.5 hours your tires are. So it's a lot of tire management, consistency, and it's more mental, more physical. So I think that way it tested a lot of my skills that way, and some lot of learning. When the tire goes off, and the racing driver, it just feels like you're driving on ice.
Yeah.
So then you still got to manage that, drive with that, and keep going. So and then the other end of it, when I did my European GT4, it was a 1 hour race and it was 30 minutes, roughly 25-30 minutes per driver. So that was a full-on sprint.
Sure.
That is as fast as any. It's like full 100% all the time.
Sure.
So it was good to get this contrast of sprint and endurance.
Yeah. And is there a favorite? Do you prefer the endurance racing or do you prefer the sprints? Or do you believe you need a mix of both to actually be a well-rounded driver?
The short answer is 4 wheels and a steering, and I'm happy. But I think both, like you said, both are very important. You need to experience. I think it's even like cricket, right? You have T20 and 1 day, 5 day, right? It's a bit of that. It's both are required. Both test different skills.
Yeah.
It's maybe not exactly like cricket where you're more specialized in endurance or in sprint, but either one is good for me.
Sure. So this lockdown obviously has hurt some parts of your preparation, Akhil. So how have you managed to stay fit and also race day ready when the day finally is here? So I know there is some talk of something starting off end of the month or in August, but what have you been doing during this time?
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough time for everyone, and I think the racing fraternity, 3 months of no racing is difficult, and like anything, they need the ecosystem to work and things to follow on. But saying that, I think only I was focusing a lot on my fitness, so just making sure I was I'm as fit as I can be. Working out in the house because gyms are closed.
Yep.
So running, cycling, whatever little equipment I have in the house, working out. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I focused on. The only small regret I have is not getting a simulator. I mean, I couldn't predict how long or how bad this was. If I knew it was 3 months, I would probably put in more effort and got a simulator. But saying that, I think it's just a lot of fitness and I think just a bit of a downtime and energizing a bit.
Yeah, and I think that was what I was leading up in my next question. So obviously you would have preferred having a sim to do all of that. And I know some drivers are doing that to keep themselves attached to a sport, while others are doing what you're doing, taking this as downtime to work on just your fitness aspect and probably the physical and mental strength rather than anything else for you. So that's what you focused on right now.
Yeah, and just on the other person's side is the stuff which I wanted to do in the past years, which I couldn't do. So done some online courses and just think that like I want to learn a bit more about that, right? So just all those kind of things on some of found time for it, which was not rushed. So caught up on some things which I really wanted to learn. And finally got time for that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, your thoughts on motorsports right now in India? I know globally, obviously, there's so much going on, but in India, what do you believe has changed from the time you started? And what do you think needs to change? Anything that you would like to see in the coming years?
Yeah, I think if I have to put it in one word, it has to go from exclusive to inclusive. If I can put that one sentence across.
Yep.
But saying that in the past 10 years since I started to now, there's been a huge amount of changes, especially from the federation side. They've put in a lot of effort at the grassroots levels. We all are very well aware that it's a very expensive sport.
Sure.
And it's not and not everyone has the means to participate and engage in this. So it's all about bringing the cost down and making it more inclusive, so that people from rental go karting can become far more affordable, and the masses can come there, and hence it'll slowly. I mean, we hope to not filter it out, but it makes it to the top also. But saying that, I think I think a lot of college competitions, a lot of rental go karting, a lot of rookie championships. So it's kind of engaging the beginners class of people, and I think that is also making its way to the national level go karting and other championships.
Sure.
Racing per se, I think it's the top of India. I think we would have liked better numbers, but stronger grids and more competitors. But saying that, I think it's maintained, but I would say the last few years the grassroots has surely picked up. And to add to that, I think now with esports coming in, I think it's made it that much more inclusive.
Yep.
And anyone with a gaming console and a TV and few pedals can race anyone anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So yeah, that's leading up to actually my last question, and typically what we end the podcast with is obviously you giving advice to our listeners, and our listeners are aspiring sports folks and their parents. And like you rightly said, so with a lot more TV and a lot more sim racing and esports, like you said, there's a lot more curiosity built in the Indian audience. So uh, while you are still climbing a ladder in the world of motorsports, what advice would you give an aspiring motorsports driver? Say someone who's started at your age at 13, 14 and is looking to make this a career.
So I think there's a lot of mistakes I have made and a lot of learnings, like any sports person. I think I've emphasized this a lot. I think you need to get your fundamentals very strong, and that comes with go karting. It seems it seems like you want to finish go karting, jump into the big cars, and drive at 250 kilometers. That's always more exciting than driving a go kart, right?
Sure.
Trust me, there's a lot of people who reach Formula cars or saloon cars or GT cars, and they just somehow don't uh, don't have the right essential techniques in place. So, not saying that's not wrong either, but I'm saying that if I think if there's more time spent on learning your fundamentals in a go-kart or in Formula racing, then it really eases up things going up the ladder. And I think saying that what goes hand in hand is also having a right tutor, a right mentor who's able to teach you the way you understand, and you're able to work with him or her and get better and better. So strong fundamentals, a good mentor, a teacher to make sure they understand you will really set the foundation and can teach you on the long term. And I think more than anything, you gotta learn how to learn, because this is such a dynamic environment and no 2 seconds are the same, right? So you just got to learn how to learn and keep applying what you're learning, and the more experience you have will always the more experience you gather, I think will definitely keep you going the long term.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Akil. I'm sure this was very helpful for my audience, and appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and share your experiences. I'm sure that all of this will be immensely helpful for any aspiring motorsports driver. So thanks again. Thanks so much, and good luck for the upcoming season.
Thank you very much, Akshay, and good luck with everything on your side.
Thanks so much. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Pick your coach, best coaches, no matter where.